So when we save our notes now, we want them to be scoped by user. So, what we sync with Firebase right now just does it at this key notes. So we want those scoped by your user ID. So we want to make sure that there is a user ID before we attempt to do that. So this probably can't happen on component will mount anymore. It should probably happen in our auth handler. So let's take this base.sync state business. I'll leave the lifecycle function there. Auth handler right now just sets the state user ID. But maybe it should also start syncing stuff. So actually what I'll do, I think, I'll make a new one called sync notes. And it'll do this. And then an auth handler will set the state with the UID. And then when that's finished, and unfortunately this doesn't return a promise, so we have to just use a callback, comma. Then we'll call this dot sync things. Remember, this is a callback, so I pass in the function itself, not the return value of the function. Sync notes, thanks. Notes are things. So then here's what I want to happen. In sync notes, it still notes from our state that I want to sync, but the endpoint in Firebase, I now, instead of just making it notes, I kind of want it to be your username or your user ID dot notes. So let's change this to a template string. And I'll say this.state.uid. And then is it, let's see. It's a slash, not a dot. Notes like that. So in Firebase, these look like paths when you refer to them in this way. So I could say slash notes slash some specific ID slash body, and it would do it there. So let's see what that does. And that only starts happening in the auth handler. So until then, I am not syncing with Firebase. So let's sign in with GitHub. I have no notes now because there's nothing at that endpoint in Firebase. Let's add a note. This should be scoped by UID. Pretty please do that thing that I describe in the title. Let's go out here and look at our database. Go back to the data tab. Look at that. We have the original notes stuff, and we have tuptavud, etc., which I presume is my UID. And under that, I have notes and a list of notes. So once again, if I add a new one manually, it shows up. Sign out. State still has these notes in it. It doesn't clear that out when we sign out. So it seems like that's another thing that sign out needs to do. So sign out right now. Signs us out from Firebase, and when that's finished, it runs this arrow function that just sets the state, the UID in state, back to null. It should probably also set notes back to an empty object. All right, try signing in. I need to authorize again. All right, I have stuff. I have notes. I sign out. Notes still isn't getting cleared out. Really? Yeah, it's still there. Interesting. What did you say? I should probably stop syncing with Firebase. Well, I'll have to sign out. Yeah, it's only going to sync the keys that are there. So that's not setting it back to an empty object. So we'll hold off on that for right now, but we did accomplish some stuff since our last commit. What did we do? We moved, we scoped them by UID is what we did, right? Now I left component will mount in there because I have a feeling there's something else I should be doing. But I won't worry about that for right this second. So scope, notes, by UID. So now every user can have their own copy of notes.